How's it going? This is Hoiman and today we're taking a look at the Amiibo Yoshi figure. So this figure is obviously based on his illustration for Smash Bros. For Wii U, and I think overall they pretty much nailed it. Like the angle and the pose is pretty much spot on. And overall I feel that the sculpt of this figure is really good for the most part. There are some areas that look a bit off and detract the figure a bit, but I think for the most part this is a really nice looking figure. So looking at his head sculpt, I feel that they've really captured the likeness of Yoshi. Looks just like him from pretty much all angles, but I will say there are some minor sculpting kind of errors, like there's a part here on his nose which kind of has a bit of a lump for whatever reason, and then there's like a seam line that kind of runs across his head, and it's not super noticeable, but I just thought I'd point it out. And then the section where they attach the nose to the face, there's a bit of a seam line as well, which I suppose couldn't really be helped, but I just thought I'd point it out. And then the paintwork is very nice and clean for the most part, but there are a few sloppy areas such as the white transferring to the green, but for the most part it is very nice and clean. And that's the same for the spines on his back as well. And then the shell is really nicely sculpted and painted. Same for the shoes. And overall this figure doesn't really have a whole lot of shading. Each part is pretty much molded in the plastic of colour, and the only parts that are painted is mainly the whites, the reds, and then the spines as well. And of course his eyes as well, which are painted on really nicely, but I will say they don't quite look in your direction, because in the illustration he's supposed to be looking straight at you. But with the Amiibo, he's kind of looking a bit off-centered. And I will say there is a bit of a seam line that kind of runs through the whole length of his body as well, but it's not super noticeable. And then the stand itself is the Smash logo, very reminiscent from the game. And then underneath you have legal stuff. So my final thoughts are, overall this is a solid looking Yoshi figure, but like I mentioned, there are a bit sloppy areas in the paintwork in some areas. There's a lot of seam lines that are visible on how they connected the figure together. So you have the seam line for the nose, and then each limb has a really deep seam line as well, which is pretty visible. And although the sculpt is really nice, there isn't really a whole lot of shading going on, so it can look a bit bland to some people, but I think for the most part, the sculpt does make up for it, and overall it is a nice looking figure of Yoshi. But I think my main gripe is the fact that his eyes don't look directly at you when you display him from the front. But that's very minor. But despite that, if you're a fan of this character or the games themselves, then I can still recommend this figure. That's my review. Thank you for watching and enjoy some pictures.